Yeah, we'll go, lads, and that's us. It's that time again. It's Newcastle United back in Champions League action, and it is, of course, the final Champions League game of the league stage, and it's under the lights at the Parc des Princes in, of course, Paris against PSG. We've been here before a few seasons ago. We'll all remember that night, of course, back in 2023, when, of course, Marciniak made the worst decision seen in European football to allow PSG a penalty, and of course which allowed Kylian Mbappe to finally score against Newcastle United. It took a penalty for him to do so, but of course that night were ended a draw, of course, against PSG in Paris. And I've got to say, we're looking at this one going into it. We're still unbeaten against PSG in the Champions League. We're still unbeaten against PSG in Europe. And PSG will be looking at this one as a little bit of a revenge game from a few seasons back. Of course, when we beat them at St James's Park, they're still looking to get that revenge on that game where we absolutely hammered them. Looking at the PSG side, since we played them the last time in Europe as well, there's no Kylian Mbappe now. They've sort of reverted to a different style and a different approach as well under Luis Enrique, with them now, of course, looking more at the academy and more, local players, more French players, not so many big named signings, the likes of, we've seen from PSG in the past, the likes of Neymar, Messi and what have you. They're going for more of a local vibe and more of a country vibe as well with their squad these days. But it's going to be, of course, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. local time in Paris, 8 p.m. for us here in the UK, and it will be, of course, live on TNT Sports. But looking at it, the final league phase fixture, Newcastle have every chance. We've got every chance of fighting for that Champions League progression. Every point is crucial in a 36-team table, as we have found out this season. But I mean, we have been absolutely brilliant in the Champions League this season. We've done some really, really good stuff. We've had some pretty good away form. It didn't start out so well with the Barcelona game, but we still put in a really good effort against Barcelona. We're just unlucky, on the night. But the way, we've played against the likes of Union Saint-Gilloise, the likes of, Bayer Leverkusen as well, and of course against Marseille. We've already been to France once to have to take on Marseille. This is, of course, the second time that we've been to France in this Champions League campaign, and it will be, of course, to take on PSG tomorrow night. But looking at it, PSG going into this one, they've had a little bit of a boost in form, of course, with them winning 1-0 recently in their last game in, of course, Ligue 1. They have, of course, moved to the top of their league, I believe it is, in Ligue 1 as well, overtaking RC Lens, who have been up there for quite a bit. They do have really good players. They've got some absolutely amazing players, PSG. But, we're going to go to Paris tomorrow night, and we're going to, be up against a really good test of how, we've improved since, of course, the last time we played them. And we've got our worries going into this one. We've got worries of Bruno, with an ankle injury, which missed out on, of course, the game against Aston Villa at the weekend, which if we had had him in that game, I think, it would have been a lot more of a different result for us in that game against Villa. But we also had, Joe Linton going off in that game with a bit of a knock, which doesn't look good, but hopefully, it's not as bad as it looks. And hopefully we do, get to see Bruno in the game tomorrow night in Paris, because we could do with him in that midfield. If he's not there, then we're going to have to be seeing what we're seeing in the game against Villa, where, Sandro Tonali was sort of the general in the midfield, leading the line in that midfield position. And then we'll see other players in there, the likes of Miley and that as well. But on Miley, I think, we should be seeing maybe Miley playing in at that right back position. If Bruno is fit to go into that midfield, then we should see, Miley going out onto that right back position, because I am a little worried to see Kieran Trippier having to go up against Bradley Barcola, who seems to be really good this season. He's been doing absolutely amazing. I'm not surprised, to be honest. It is Barcola. He's a very good player. But there's other players in that PSG squad that we've got to watch out for as well. Like Desri, who is a really good player as well. So we've got to keep an eye on him in the game, not to mention the likes of Ousmane Dembele as well, who is really good. Ballon d'Or winner, of course, last season. So these are all things that we've got to put into our mind going into that game, and we've got to, be looking at the right mentality going into the game as well. I'm sure Eddie, will have been well and truly researching this game right after the game against Villa, probably even before the game against Villa, because if we get past, PSG here, if we get the result here, we cement ourselves into a top 8 place in the league of the Champions League phase, and that is huge because if we can get that, then we'll get a straight round into the round of 16, and we don't have to then, be in that playoff knockouts, which would add an extra 2 games to an already heavy fixture schedule in February, which is not what we want to do. So we need to go to Paris. We need to get that win. We need to cement that 3 points in this game tomorrow night out in France. Looking at the referee going in this one, it is Slovenian referee in the middle of Slavko Vanic, I believe is pronounced. Sorry if I've probably butchered his name there, but he was, of course, the referee for the Champions League final, from what's being said last season. And on VAR, it is a German official of Christian Dingut, who will be, of course, on the monitors, watching to, make the extra decisions, what the referee doesn't pick up on, and hopefully, these officials are better than what we've had to deal with the last time we played PSG in France, of course, Marciniak and his officiating team, who got that horrible decision completely wrong. Looking at our success as well on French soil, we've had some pretty decent success over the years, but we have had some dodgy ones. Obviously, the highlights are, playing Sochaux back in 2004-2005, where we won 4-0 against them. Then, of course, the most recent one of PSG 1-1 in the 23-24 campaign. Overall, it's a tough venue, and it's going to be tight margins to take on, of course, PSG in their own backyard. But there's been some famous away nights for Newcastle over the Champions League years. Of course, Feyenoord 3-2. That was a brilliant night. Bayer Leverkusen 3-1 as well. The Inter Milan 2-2. Recent form, of course, of the last time we won the Champions League, of the 0-0 against AC Milan and 1-1 against PSG, and a 2-2, of course, against Leverkusen. Not to mention, of course, the PSG game at St James's Park, where we're absolutely amazing. But just on a weird form, that AC Milan 0-0, PSG 1-1 and 2-2 against, of course, Leverkusen. Then, of course, that game against Marseille this season as well, which wasn't best, to be honest. But looking at it, we've got every chance of coming away from France with all 3 points in the bag and cement ourselves a place in the round of 16, and without having to go through the knockout playoffs, which is not what we want to do. We have proven we can travel, and we've already earned respect in Europe from so many clubs. And Paris is the final test, the final statement. We need to get the win in France tomorrow night. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel. And of course, the final bit before we see out the video: is this squad capable of another famous European night? Let us know down in the comments below. However, lads.